I'm going to be your moderator for this session. I am the community manager here at B4B Partners, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. So those three things that you see in the circles are what I love, like what I like actually, things I like, things that make me happy. So I'm a big fan of coffee, and I'm a bigger fan of coffee ice cream. In fact, that's the only ice cream I take. I can't stand any other ice cream. So coffee ice cream with waffles and dark Oreos, like I love it. I am a proud family person. Family means a lot to me. Family is my pillar, like backbone. I wouldn't be where I am today talking to you, introducing this amazing workshop and the host, without like my family and all of that. And yes, I do enjoy a good pack of Pringles now and then. And I am looking forward to, sharing this time with you, and also getting to gain the wonderful insights from our host in this particular workshop, because she has a lot of lessons and tips to teach us on building a valuable product. So yeah, that's all about me. I can't see, I hope that there are celebrations and claps going around because I can't actually see the screen now. So this is an open session, so would love if you turn on your camera, feel free to type your comments during the session, engage, share, be open. We are an open community, and we encourage boldness. We encourage you to feel free in yourself, be comfortable in your skin. So if you have any questions, if you have any ideas, please drop them in comments, unmute, share. And we do not want you to be cozy. I know that this is a very cozy weather and maybe some of us are still in bed, but please shake it off because this is going to be an engaging session. So yes, welcome to B4B Partners. Now, before we dive in, I want to introduce you to the amazing organization that's behind this workshop and the amazing organization that I am part of, which is B4B Partners. So B4B Partners is a capacity building and consultative company. We specialize in helping businesses across Nigeria and Africa to build, grow, scale, and accelerate their revenue by combining expert-led training, workshops, coaching, and tailored learning and development solutions. So think of us as your revenue partners. So I want you to go with that. Think of us as your revenue partners. So our vision, like I mentioned, to empower individuals and businesses with the tools, strategies, and support needed for scalable and sustainable growth. And we help you build high-performing sales teams, drive revenue growth, empower people through capacity building, and deliver lasting impact through programs, like I said before. And we manifest these things in four, let's say, subsets and four arms. So there's the B4B community, just like this, where we have community free webinars, free community workshops, where you get access to really valuable information that, probably when you go somewhere else, you have to pay for this information. But we decided to give you this information free because we want to help you build the life that you want. We want to help you build the business that you want with what you already have. We have the consulting services, mentioned that we have specific training programs that we can model to your business, your organization, to enable you achieve that revenue growth and that revenue growth. We have B4B learning. So we have short impact courses, 1-week courses that help you build and grow your knowledge through our actionable learning platforms. And then we have the foundation, our foundation project, the Luminary project, where we help social enterprises grow and scale their impact through funding, visibility, and support. So yeah, like I said, we're your partners for scalable revenue growth. And now I am going to hand over to a very special person in this workshop who is going to introduce a particular program that's very valuable and part of this whole community workshop as a whole. So hi Napa, please can you comment?
Hi, Sarah. Thank you for that warm welcome. Guys, please give me some emojis if you're happy to see me on the screen. If you're not happy, don't give me any thumbs down, because that will kind of make me feel like I haven't had such a great start to the day. So hi, guys. Welcome, everyone. In 1 minute or less, I'm so excited to tell you about a program we're having. It's called the B4B Revenue Accelerator. And you can see the guy counting money. That is the goal. We want to help businesses turn strategy into systems and revenue into results. So this accelerator is very unique in that over 4 weeks, our goal is to make sure your startup, your business, your organization starts making money. And if you like money, you can thumbs me up, not love, because the love of money does weird things. But the program is 1 week of physical training, in-person training in Lagos. We will cover your product, your marketing, your sales, customer success, and teams. This is hands-on, and our facilitators come from around the world. Sorry, if you can go back to the slide before. And after that training, the 1 week in person, we have 3 weeks of hands-on execution, expert coaching. You can get access to free training, free CRMs for those of us that are still doing the Excel like work of life. And then we would help you build your lead generation engine. You'll have your sales book, sales templates, and you will learn from operators that are scaling in real African startups. This is across EdTech, FinTech, people that are also doing e-com. We have an amazing lineup of facilitators. And just look at the results, guys. Can you see across board for the first cohort we did, there was a 56% increase in revenue. True story. We also saw an 820% increase in leads, which is amazing. And then we saw almost a quarter of the participants fully adopt CRM tools. So I think, Sarah, you have a QR code. These are some of our facilitators, but you get more information, scan it. But after this webinar, you're going to have access to the link to register. So please, if you've always said, I've never given you anything, I mean, this is one that you can say thank you for. So I'm really excited for the people that would join our next cohort. And back to you, Sarah.
All right, thank you so much for that introduction, Revenue. Napa, as we said, you've summarized what the Revenue Accelerator is about. And yes, you are going to really gain a lot from this. So I'm just going to go straight to the agenda. So we have welcome and introductions, which is what I've just covered. And then we'll go to the meat of the session where Osa breaks down all the tips and lessons. And then you get to ask your questions. And then we have gift goodies and announcements at the end of the workshop. So I'm just going to go straight ahead to introduce Osa. Yes, Osa Awani, and I'm just going to give a brief introduction of who she is and what she's done so far and what she's achieved so far. So Osa Awani is the managing partner at Artisan Product Management Advisory, and she helps startups build and scale impactful tech products. With over 15 years in the industry, she's held leadership roles at Terragon and Etisalat. My God. Forging strategic partnerships with Microsoft, AWS, PwC, and others. Also advises on strategy, go-to-market, and product discovery, driving growth and innovation. She holds an MBA from Manchester Business School and certifications in product marketing and strategic marketing. And I must say, she is the best person to deliver this really unique topic to you today, and she's going to do great justice, I'm sure. Hi, Osa. Welcome, 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 welcome. We're excited to have you here. So, yes, let's go.
Guys, I have been to a number. Can everybody hear me okay, though?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I have done a number of things like this before, but Sarah's energy is next level. So who is voting for salary increase for Sarah? Okay. Just take a screenshot and show it to your boss. All right, guys. Thanks so much for joining. I know it's Saturday. Some people are tying their gele, getting ready for Owambe and things like that. But, we promise that this will be as impactful as possible. Napa has already shown you the numbers. So trust me, it's going to be absolutely worth your time. So I'll try and cramp this up and put in as much as I can within the 35 minutes. So quickly, it's about idea to revenue. Ideas are a dime a dozen. Everybody has multiple ideas. Even I have like a vault with tons of ideas that are put on paper, but I haven't, started doing any work on it. So the goal of having ideas is because you think that you have an interesting way to solve a problem that would generate revenue, right? But when we think about it, not every idea is valuable. We're in an economy where we've seen tons of businesses, tons of startups fold up. In fact, just Google it, and then you see the startups, we call it a startup graveyard, right? So the point is that there's a lot that goes into taking an idea from it just being an idea to a revenue generating opportunity or revenue generating business. At the end of the day, if an idea doesn't translate to helping to deliver value, the chances are that it would not succeed. So I just took, screenshots and headlines of some businesses that we admire or headlines that we've seen that speak to how companies are doing so well. We talk about MoneyPoint raised, last year there was a drought in terms of startup funding, but yet in the midst of this, MoneyPoint was able to raise money. I like to use MoneyPoint a lot because, it's an indigenous company. We all experience it. So there's a difference between knowing and experience. We know MoneyPoint, but a lot of us experience MoneyPoint. You walk into Olaya and you make your payment. Once upon a time, you stand there and wait. It hasn't come. It has come. I haven't gotten an alert. I've gotten an alert. No, but now you insist. Do you have a MoneyPoint account? And they say yes, because you know that once you make that transfer, you get an instant alert. You're not standing and waiting there for 5 minutes. In seconds, you are done. Value. We talk about banks that are declaring trillions in profits. Everybody has a bank account. Everybody here makes transactions. And this interesting one, Amoke Oge, it was all over the news a couple of weeks ago about how she's made over 2 billion, on Child Deck. But it's about, at the end of the day, it's about value. She's not the only person that sells food, right? But she's found a vehicle and she's found an effective way to help customers, to meet customers at their point of need. So there are different ways companies are generating revenue because they found a sweet spot in terms of value that customers need. But on the flip side, this same economy where people are making money and all of that, we are hearing a lot about exits, right? A lot about exits, companies are exiting the business, the country, X, Y, and Z. And so we know that. So what it means is that there are layers to this, right? So it means that when you have an idea, for it to translate to revenue, there are lots of factors that come to play, right? Talk about you. How big is your segment? How painful is your problem? We'll go into all of that, but I thought it was just important to just mention that despite the fact that we know that there are certain boxes we have to tick, but there are factors, that impact whether or not, we're successful. And then we're in an economy where, things are really tough. But like I said in the previous slide, despite all of this, businesses have found ways to deliver value and still make money despite all of this, shrinking customer purchasing power, economic downturn, X, Y, and Z. So those are the things that we're going to talk about. I kind of broke the presentation into 2 bits. The first bit is really about products, right? From a product perspective and how to validate the idea. Because for you to take your idea from just something that sits in your head, for it, to start to build a product, you need to validate it. Validate it in the sense that there really is a problem to be solved. A lot of time we think about a product as a great idea. But when we think about product, the core of it is it really solving a painful in caps, capital letter, bold red? Is it solving a painful problem? So I'll start with a short story. And this is a real story, a true story, right? It's a startup I worked with. I encountered them, a few months ago, and they came to me about to launch. And he had done quite a bit of things already, had an idea and was building a product and taking it to market. What did he do? He knew he had to validate his problem, right? So what did he do? He did a research, sent out a web survey. So let me just give a bit of context. So this guy is an HR expert. HR expert, right? He's been doing recruitment and HR all his life. He's a professional. He's worked in top companies, from banks to multinational finance companies. So big companies, he's worked in. And so to him, he had experienced certain problems in the recruitment process, and he thought, I've identified the gap, and I want to be able to fill that gap. And I believe that if I develop a solution to fix that gap, I'm going to be a unicorn in 5 years. That's his thesis, right? And he had certain pillars to it. One of it was he thought that during the recruitment process, running personality tests was important for HR to be able to guarantee that you are able to recruit the right talent and retain them. So his bet was on personality tests, because in the companies that he had worked in, they've used personality tests to get that done. However, personality test tools are very expensive. Talk about tens of thousands of dollars. And his idea is, if I can develop a solution that embeds that tool and make it available to small businesses. Think about the sizable market of small businesses, SMBs in Nigeria alone. I think registered SMBs are over 4 million, but that's formal. Informal is maybe 10x that, right? So to him, he had done the maths, and it made sense, on paper. So what did he do? Did his research, got thumbs up. Yes, we need this solution. Sorted out his tech, found some people that could build a software, gave them, worked with the UI expert. They, did some Figma, and they started building the platform. He built a team. I need a customer success person. I need a CTO, and then I need to start to market and start to fundraise because I can't wait. I need to put this out. However, after he had invested a number of months, effort, cost in building this technology and marketing, what did he get? He only had about 14 talent. Like I said, it's a recruitment platform. So you would have the talent side. So think about LinkedIn, people who are recruiting through the platform, and talent. He had only 2 recruiters registered. He had 14 talents registered, and he had 0 revenue. And in the days that we're in, sometimes people who even register on the platform could be bots. So the fact that he couldn't engage those people, there's a possibility that those were actually bots. Now, before we get to what you should have done better, on the chat, if you could drop your idea or what you think he didn't do right or what he should have done differently, what the problem was, I'll get to it. But between now and when I get to it, just drop on the comment section what you think or he should have done differently. Because like I said, he did everything he needed to have done. He did a research, he had a strong team and all of that. However, the impact has been less than expected. So just drop comments there and let me know what you think. So before we get there, I wanted us to go through something called the big risks of products. So these are, before you start to build products, these are certain questions you should ask yourself before you say, yes, I have a validated idea that has a real market need and we should start to build products. So anybody in the product space knows a guy called Marty Kagan. They call him the godfather of product. And he kind of put this thing together. And then it's been broken down into 2 spaces. So customer adoption. So the risks that a business will encounter that will impact their ability to drive adoption from a customer perspective and for the business to make money, right? So it's broken into, number 1, desirability. Is there value? Because at the end of the day, a product that has no clear benefit is unlikely to succeed. So questions you should ask yourself: does the product solve a painful problem? So think about yourself. I gave the story about MoneyPoint. How painful is it, or rather is it to you, going to make a purchase, you are in a hurry? Or think about you have an emergency, let's say at the hospital, and you need to make a payment for an emergency surgery or whatever it is. Would you rather make the payment with using a platform that the accountant has to go and check the bank at the back end, make sure the funds have come in before they give an approval, versus I know that with I'm not trying to sell MoneyPoint. I've never worked with MoneyPoints before. I just think that it's something that we cannot relate to. Versus, do you have a MoneyPoint POS that I know that once I make this payment in 10 seconds, you will get it and I'm out of here? So think about a problem being painful. So in product, they talk about painkillers, vitamins, and I can't remember the third one. So if you have a headache, you take a painkiller because you know that without the painkiller, your head is going to be banging. That's how you should think about your product versus a vitamin. Vitamin is nice to have. I have kids, I give them vitamins every day, but sometimes I miss it. And what happens to them? Nothing. But if they have an infection, I have to give them antibiotics to make them feel better. So you have to think about your problem in that way. We'll go into segmentation a bit later, but that's how to think about desirability. Is there a real need? And are they really willing to take the pain to get this done? Somebody asked me a question the other day because we're talking about startups X, Y, and Z, and he said, look around you. So all of us here, we all use Microsoft Word, right? We know how important it is. But how many people actually use original versions? So that's you start to think about, is there an ability to pay? I'm sure a number of us here can afford to pay to use Microsoft Word, but is there the willingness to pay, right? So you have to think about it that way. Usability risk. I'll give you another example. I like to use, for you to picture it. I'll give you another example. I tried to do some savings, and I heard about this. I'm not going to mention it because it wasn't a great experience. And I heard about this app that I can use to make savings and invest in dollars, in naira, X, Y, and Z. And I tried to onboard myself. The first time I tried it, I got stuck somewhere. I couldn't get past a certain point. I just left it. I said, let me try again. I want to save, right? We should save. Tried again. I tried the third time. I just couldn't get past it. There was a blocker there. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I just couldn't get past a point. And what did I do? I abandoned it. And somebody told me about another app. And I tried it. And in less than a minute, I was registered. I was able to use the platform. So usability, how easy and user-friendly. We all have, mobile devices now, iPhones, X, Y, and Z. How many of them still come with manuals? Intuitive, user-friendly. That's the age that we're in now. Right. So I hope my screen is not frozen. Oops, I seem to be frozen. Sorry, guys. Sarah, maybe you can help me here. I seem to be frozen. Or let me try again.
Okay. Okay, it's good now.
Okay. Okay, there you go. Yeah. So the two other risks that speak to the business side. So if you're able to check the customer adoption side, because that's where your revenues will come from, right? On the business side, do you have the resources to build? Right? It's going to take X, Y, and Z. Everybody wants to do AI now, but do you really have the skills, the resources, the talent to build it? Right now, we're at the point where the world is very global, right? The world is very global. Don't think about yourself as competing with somebody in the same cohort as you or any of us here. Your customers are matching or comparing your product with the likes of Amazon. How easy is it for me to be able to shop on Amazon? Because I've gotten used to it. I've experienced Amazon. I've experienced shopping on, Zara, X, Y, and Z. I'm not going to dumb down what I like or what I've experienced that I know that is great because it's founded by Nigeria. No. So the point is that, do you have the resource? You need to ensure you have the resources, technology to build a solution that is at par with global products. That's the mindset that you should have. Then business viability risk. It's one thing to think about your business a certain way. It's another thing to build a product that helps you to achieve your business goals. Are there legal restrictions? You might want to build a cloud storage X, Y, and Z, but then are there limiting restrictions in the country, in Nigeria, that says you cannot take data out of Nigeria? So you have to ensure that it ticks certain boxes from a regulatory perspective, from an ethical perspective, and even your financial model, based on how you're thinking of your business. So in the first, I like this quote. So this guy, Scott Belsky, he's startup founder. He sold his business to Adobe for, millions of dollars. He says in the first 15 seconds of every new experience, people are lazy, vain, and selfish. And I would apply that to the experience that I shared with you about a savings app that I couldn't just get past. People are lazy. I will drop it and look for something else. They are vain. It is so difficult for me to get past a certain problem. I'm thinking, is it myself? Is it that I'm not smart enough to figure this out? I'm vain. If it's not making me look good, I'm moving on to the next one. Versus the other one, which I was able to onboard myself in less than a minute. Yeah, it means, wow, that's good. It means that I'm doing something right. So they're selfish. What's in it for me? How does it make me feel? How does it make me look good or smart, or does it make me look dumb because it's so complicated, right? So when you're selling your product, really, it's not about saying, because we find that a lot of time, we're so excited about what we've built. It can do this, it can do that, it can do this. However, when it comes to actually successfully selling your product, what the focus should be on is, because like I said at the beginning, your job as a product owner is to ensure that you are solving a problem. So what you want to do is ensure that your customers recognize that they have a problem, right? Not just that there's an urgency to that problem that they need to solve, and that the options that they have are just not enough. Why? Because yours helps them do it better. So it's not about the bells and whistles that you have. So Money Point again. Money Point does not come to tell you, oh, we have the fanciest POS, our buttons are, nicely done. It's touch screen, it's not touch screen. Have you ever seen a Money Point billboard? No. So, but at the end of the day, what does Money Point sell without even selling? Convenience, ease of use, and your transactions are validated as early as possible, that you don't have to waste your time in what you're trying to and transact. So do we have any, Sarah, just help me look, do we have any comments or advice on how people think that they could have done this better before we go here? I'm trying to manage my, okay. Okay.
No comments.
No specific comments. Okay, let's go to the answers then. Okay.
I'm sorry, before you move on,
Pardon?
I think Napa mentions around starting with a lane with a MVP.
Okay.
Yeah,
Cynthia also mentioned maybe it wasn't a head-on-fire problem.
Okay. Voila. Maybe it was a head on fire problem, which is to our point around how painful is it? Is it a vitamin or is it a painkiller? So what should he have done? First of all, he ran a research, right? So it means I did some sort of validation. However, there are nuances to it. You can ask somebody a question. So there's something, okay, I'll go to it in the end, because there's a book called The Mom Test. It kind of teaches you how to ask questions properly, because it calls it the mom test. Because think about it. If you told your mom you had a great idea, what's she gonna say? Thumbs up or thumbs down? She said, if you said to her, Mom, I can't think of any random idea now, but you're her child and her job is to make you feel good, right? So you come up with the wildest idea and she'll be like, oh, wow, this is, so the book called The Mom Test kind of helps you to frame questions to help you validate during research. So there are questions that you will ask that you're called leading the witness. So a lot of time it's not very objective, especially when we believe so much as startup founders, as product owners. We believe very much in our product and what it is that we believe that we have the next best thing, right? So it's possible that when we're asking questions, we don't ask objectively. So I looked at the survey. A lot of the questions were not objective. It was, would you do this? Would you do that? Of course, they will say yes. But does that mean that you will pay for it? Not necessarily. So more research in terms of actual customer interviews. So think about sitting with an HR expert and then going through the process, understanding what the recruitment process is for different types of businesses. Remember that I said that he had worked in a lot of big companies, right? So what if those were big company problems, and yet you are building a solution that you are depending on the vast majority of SMBs to pay for that solution because you think that it will be useful for them? It's possible that that problem, like I said, was a big man problem, right? Not an SMA problem. Sorting out tech. With startups, one of the biggest mistakes anybody can make is to outsource your tech. Because if you're in startup, obviously you are depending on technology to help you build a business. And if your technology is outside of your business, it means that it's detached from your customers, is detached from the users, is detached from the customer experience. Because I gave you this instance. The founder decided on what he thought the solution should be, went to meet somebody, a UI expert, and they designed Figma and took it to the outsourced company to develop. So look at how distant it is from the user. So when I came in, I said, let's talk to customers. We're talking to customers, and what customers are saying their problems are. Remember, I told you that his assumption was that people will pay a lot for the personality test. However, when we started engaging customers, one of the things they were talking about was filtering. That I would post a job, and I would get 1,000 entries, and 800 of them are so unconnected to what I'm trying to achieve. I'm looking for a doctor, for instance. 800 of them are not qualified doctors. Do you understand what I mean? So how can it takes me weeks to sort that out. So how can I sort that out or reduce that time from 1 week sorting to maybe a day? That was a big problem that a lot of people said they would pay for. So let's say we interviewed 20 people. 18 of them talked more about sorting CVs versus personality test, right? So, and then on the point of sorting out tech, the funny thing happened, something funny that happened was the person, like I said, it was outsourced, not managed internally. The person who was actually managing the tech disappeared. So for 6 weeks, they did not know, this is a true story, they didn't know where, and the person had the source code. So for 6 weeks, they were handicapped, everybody sitting on their hands. So outsourcing tech is very dangerous, especially for a startup. And then before going to the tech to build, you start with prototypes first. They are low cost, and then you get a chance to, tweak if necessary. With a prototype, you can show a user, and they can say, oh yeah, they can. You can get a sense of would it work, would it not work. Versus spending, like I said, thousands of dollars to build a platform when you are not sure that customers actually want it, right? And then the point around customer-led versus founder-led, as I explained, everything came from the founder. This is what he believed versus you want customer, is the founder paying for it or are customers paying for it? Versus actually hearing more from the customers. On the third point around building it, like I said, he did a lot of hires, a CTO and all of that. Do you actually need that? Absolutely not. The product is the business. So everything should revolve around making sure that there's product adoption first, product validation and adoption first. So start lean. The startup founder is the salesperson, is the customer success person, is the HR, is the everything until you validated, until you have, some sort of traction. Marketing and fundraising, until certain things are done, marketing and fundraising is off the table, right? Because you want to demonstrate that there's viability here. So at the end of the day, what were the results after we did a bit of work? You are saving time, effort, and cost, right? Like I said, they would have spent tens of thousands of dollars in building a tech that nobody wants. They would have validated and known that instead of personality tests being the focus, it should really be about start from filtering CVs, right, to gain traction. Because at the end of the day, when you don't do proper validation, resources are wasted. You are solving the wrong problem, like I gave in the example, and then you miss opportunities because you believe in what you think the customer wants. You are building a certain type of way, and meanwhile, customers' problems are different. And then you have what they call lack of product market fit. And then something big is founder's bias, right? Like I mentioned, it really came from the founder. The founder believed that this was what customers need versus actually validating what customers need. And then something that a lot of us founders really, suffer from is sunk cost fallacy, which is around, I've run this thing and pushed this thing for a couple of months, but I believe because of my bias, because of my founder's bias, that if I just, add this feature, customers would love it. If I just did this a little bit more, customers would love it versus, I read the data. I've run this thing for 6 months. I have zero adoption. I have zero traction. Customers are not using it. Customers are not signing. I need to pull the plug. So pull the plug can be pull the plug for good or go back and reiterate. Go back, start to talk to customers, and then build accordingly. An effective launch, obviously, nobody's going to buy, right? And then obviously, even if through marketing, you are able to get some sort of traction, you're going to have scaling difficulties because you're not going to have customers that will stay with you because it's not a problem that is painful enough. right? Product is really about solving customer problems, not what you think customers should view as their problem. We fall into this a lot. We have an assumption of what we believe customers, what we believe should be customers' problems, right? So when we think about validation, right, we need to think about the problem. Like I said, are we addressing a genuine issue that people are facing? Do we have a unique perspective, right, into it? And then somebody's audio is on, just so you know, because it's I can hear it echoing. Do we have the insight, a unique perspective on how to solve this problem? Like I said, when we talk to customers, the HR people, when we talk to customers, you know, do we have a creative way of solving it? They were able to find I was able to help them get an engineer who just used like open source tools with AI and was able to do some sort of validation, you know, created a prototype, I beg your pardon, created a prototype that they were able to upload CVs, and then it would, you know, skim through it, filter through it, and give you highlights. This person qualifies, this person doesn't qualify, you know. And then creativity, I think, is very important. I watched a webinar with one guy, Oji Udezue. He's a big guy when it comes to product, and he talked about it's not enough for you to think about just to think about to get insights on customer problem if you don't have a creative way of solving it. Creativity is very key, because you find that there are even problems that products that we're used to now. There were products that probably similar products that came earlier than it. You know, think about Facebook. I think there was, I don't remember the name of the product before Facebook. If you remember it, you can put it in there. That was something similar to Facebook, and then but Facebook took off. So creativity in the way that how can customers really enjoy and experience this that keeps them on, that makes it sticky. And then when we find that, it's important to figure out how large is this base, this pool of potential customers. How many people really care about this? How many people are really bleeding from this problem? The size of the market is important. These are some technical frameworks. So these are really for product people, right? People that are in the product space, they are probably familiar with any of these. Are some of the techniques that are used to validate, to prioritize and validate ideas. There's the lean startups, there's the minimum viable product, there's the right scoring method, which is you assess the reach, the impact, confidence over the effort it will take for you to deliver it. Is it worth it? You know, there's the CRISP framework, 5-step. You know, you want to define the problem, analyze the market, very important, brainstorm ideas, create a plan, and then start to execute. When you talk about execution, a place to start is minimum viable product. Well, you know, it's also called minimum viable prototype as well, meaning you don't just go and start to build. You start with prototypes, you validate before you actually go to market. And then these are some very basic methods. You know, they are not overly technical, but they are very easy, affordable ways. But I also scale them based on what it will cost to you and how valuable are the insights that you get. You know, user interviews, they are very low cost. Everybody is, you know, is a customer. A lot of time when we think about customer interviews, we think about scheduling an appointment, you know, doing it on Zoom, doing it on Google Meet, X, Y, and Z. I'm not saying that that's not valid, but a lot of times when we only think about customers that way, then we don't get the most of it. When we think about customers, everybody is a potential customer. You know, like I said, the guys that I worked with, the HR guys, everybody is a professional. They are HR people, they are talent. So everybody is a professional looking for a job. You don't need to sit and schedule a meeting with me. I'm your friend. You know, have a chat with me. How difficult is it with getting a job with LinkedIn? What are the gaps there? What are your frustrations with using LinkedIn? LinkedIn is the most popular for jobs X, Y, and Z. So when we think about customer interview, we don't think about it, you know, I need a customer success team to set it up X, Y, and Z. No, everybody is a potential customer. Look about, you know, you walk into a business, you go to church, just have informal chats with people. It costs you nothing. So that first bit was actually user surveys. I beg your pardon, this is a typo. This is user surveys, and the next bit is user interviews. Right, and then mock-ups. Mock-ups are like prototypes. You know, it gives people an experience to give a, you know, insight of would you or would you not. But like I said, the value here is a bit low because it's still very presumptive, right? It is, you know, it's really about research, getting, you know, to figure out how people would use your product, not if they would use your product, right? I like the idea of a fake door button, meaning you actually have, so for instance, now it's very easy, you have Replit, you have Bolt, you have all sorts of AI platforms that you can use to just generate, a landing page. You can use that to test. So even if you don't have a real product, you can test, you can create a landing page using like any of these tools, like I said, put it out there and see how many people actually click on, like you have like a call to action button, see how many people actually click there, register for it, and indicate interest. Engage them. What makes you click? What are you looking out for? What is wrong with these current solutions that you're using? This is what I have, a prototype. Do you want to test X, Y, and Z? That gives you very high value in terms of willingness, understanding how valuable your idea is. Actual usage. I was listening to an interview with the guys at High Touch. Well, High Touch is like a data management solution. They talked about their prototyping when they were testing and validating was actual, getting people to actually use it and pay for it. So depending on what kind of product that you have, you can actually do your prototypes, and people would actually, if people find it valuable, they will pay for it. They will pay for it, they would use it, you will get first-hand feedback. So that's, the areas around high usage and paywalls. With those two options, the value in terms of validating your ideas are very high, and the cost is not that much. Like I said, there are so many AI-powered tools, that can help you to come up with solutions, instantly, and you don't even have to be technical. It's like low code. So that's really the core of my presentation today. These other ones, I will just sort of breeze through it. Right? Because once you identify and you validate your idea, things like that, you now want to, figure out who are my customers? How big is that market? So you start with your segmentation. Who is your ideal customer? I like this image. It kind of speaks to, when you think about your product, it caters to a wide range of people, right? But who are the buckets of people who find this solution most useful? Like I said, with the HR guy, it could be that the way he's built it, it means that it's probably most useful for enterprises, people in enterprises. So he now starts to figure out, is that segment big enough for me? That's where we speak about segmentation. And then the next part is really about need-based target market analysis. Meaning, so this is an example of a finance industry. If you think about how you use banks now, there are different types of customers, right? Some people, security and trust is more important to them. They want to see the bank, they want to walk into it, they want to see people they can harass. Some people, convenience seekers, like money points people, So you figure out how what are potential customers finding value in your product? What kind of people are interested in using your product? You put them in audience buckets, and you then kind of measure it. How big is this bucket? What is their spending power? How profitable is it if I focus on this, right? That's a way to figure out, your your ideal customer profile that you can start from and then build on. And then on value proposition, you think about your product in a certain type of way, but at the end of the day, you want customers to buy your product. Meaning it's how they think about it that is actually more important, right? And that's where value proposition comes in. How do customers think? What's the frame of reference for your customers? I like this image as well. It speaks to a lot of time, because we've put in so much effort in building our products. We think that it can solve X, Y, Z, A, B, C, D, E. However, it creates a problem, because what it means is that people don't even know what bucket they should put you in. What exact problem is it solving for me? So the image gives an example of a Swiss knife. So if your product is a Swiss knife, meaning it has a knife feature, scissors feature, corkscrew feature, and more, it means that you have put your product in the minds of different people to think about your product in different ways, which will cost you a lot in terms of how you are marketing, because a lot of people are going to be confused. So you need to think about how you are solving a problem for a group of people, right? I talked about earlier about features versus benefits, right? Customers really don't care about, what features, the bells and whistles on your product. It's how is it really solving a problem for me? What is it doing for me? I'm running out of time now, so I'll just, I think this is my last slide, right? Yeah, so please get ready your questions if you have any, because we'll be going to Q&A in a bit. So product before marketing, lots of times, like I said, with the first example of the HR person I worked with, by the time we were engaging, he had already done all the work as far as it was concerned, and he wanted to just go to market. However, if you don't do a lot of this product work that we've discussed earlier and before marketing, you're going to be bogged down with a lot of things, because you find that your product doesn't deliver enough value for enough of a customer base to guarantee profitability of your business. What you find that you will have high cost in your acquisition, because you're trying to really get people to understand what it is that you're doing. And you're speaking to multiple people because you haven't identified which segment of the target market does your product actually solve a problem for. You have unsatisfied customers, right? Because they think about your product a certain way. Meanwhile, your product is built to solve something different, right? And then without that product market fit, growth definitely will be stalled. So in closing, really, these are just some of the materials that I've found useful. This is not limiting. This is, like I said, I found useful in my journey. For any startup, the messy middle is, it's like, for me, I found it's like a Bible. And I would try to read it like every year. It's written by Scott Belsky. He's a startup founder. He's an angel investor. Like I said, he sold his company to Adobe for millions of dollars. And he talks about the rough part of building a startup, the hard parts, from building teams, validating, selling, all sorts of things. And he talks about what you should be doing, talks about what people do wrong and what they should be doing differently. So I found it very useful. The mom test, like I said, in terms of when you're interviewing customers, you want to get objective feedback. And the mom test helps you to figure out the best way to do this. And then when it comes to positioning, nobody does it better than April Dunford. She has a podcast, she has a book, and she really breaks it down and explains. So even if you are not technical, you will definitely understand, what she's saying. So in terms of how to position your startup or your business or your products, I think that you'll find these resources very useful. The journey to success is never linear, right? Like this journey in this graph, right? It's never really, you have to go through processes of iteration, re-engineering, pulling back, pushing, pivoting if possible, but then you have to continuously discover using the right tools and the right skills. But the bottom line is that, the focus really is about the customer. So with that being said, let's take questions before we can, and then can round up.
Osas, that was so amazing. Like, I forgot that we were hosting you, and I started actually validating and going through some of the ideas that I have. So I know it's quite a number of people on the call at the same time. So there's some questions in the comments. Emmanuel, you asked the question, should I read it? Is it still relevant, or it was answered during the presentation?
Okay, if it's the last one you're speaking to, yes, I think it's still relevant. The last question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, maybe you ask it since you already.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Good morning. Thank you very much for the delivery. So the last question, or the question I asked here, you talked about putting out a prototype or just getting something that people could indicate interest into. Is this going to work for B2B or B2C kind of products? I don't know if that works on both sides. Then from my own experience, I've always realized that there's always that need or push to say, can I see what you have? What then do you answer at that point? Yes, someone has indicated interest and they want to see what you have, but at this point, it's still an idea. What then do you answer at this point?
No, so I'll start with your first question. Your first question, prototype working for B2B and B2C. So it's easier for B2B. It's easier for B2C, but it's also easy for B2B. The problem with B2B is that we think about B2B as the entire business. However, in B2B, there are personas, there are users, there are buyers. So you need to figure out, first of all, because you are validating the problem, the focus, first of all, should be on the user. So who in the business is going to use this solution? It's not going to be everybody at the same time, right? Who is the user? So that's who you should be validating with first. And then you can then start, once you validated it as a need, the person can use it, the person is solving a particular problem, then you will now have to start to deal with other personas within the businesses, like the decision maker, the approver, X, Y, and Z. But first of all, when you think about validation, the focus should be on the actual user, right? So, and then your second question on what second question was on what? Please just remind me again. Okay, if
Then
somebody
someone,
wants to
especially in
see,
the B2B space, most of the time, someone asks you for, can I see what your solution can do for me?
yeah.
Then what do we do at that point? Since it's still in the idea stage.
No, so but that's why I talk about prototyping, right? So before you build a prototype, you carry out your customer discovery, meaning you sit with people, you get a sense of what their workflow is. Imagine like you're sitting with the person, you're understanding, because you have an idea of, you think that he has this problem, but you want to experience it with him. So you're sitting with him, you're interviewing him, you're understanding how he's currently solving that problem. And you're seeing that it takes him 5 steps, but your idea solves it in 3 steps. And he's flowing with you like, yes, that's a real problem. I think that if I can do it in a shorter period of time, it will be useful for me, X, Y, and Z. You then create a prototype and sit with him and say, see, and a prototype really works. I'm saying that because the example I gave about the HR professional, they actually created a real prototype. It wasn't anything fancy. They didn't have bells and whistles, nothing. It was really just about testing the functionality, the solution. And we gave it to people. They uploaded their CVs. It sorted out the CVs, and they're like, yeah, this helps me to cut down my time for sorting out CVs from 2 days to 5 minutes. So yes, you can actually have prototypes. Like I said, there are lots of tools, out there. I'll give you another example. A friend of mine is also she's creating like a travel business, it's travel startup, where people can band together. So people that don't want to travel, solo travelers that are looking for other people to travel with, you can sign up. There are different places you can sign up to. So for instance, if there's a trip for Ghana in September, you can sign up, you can have instrumental payments. It's not a real business, it's just an idea. But she has a landing page with a button that says click to join. She has a paywall as well. She has people who have paid for it, people who have signed up, people who have requested for instrumental payment, but she doesn't even have a real business. So what she now does is at the back end, she now goes to source for a travel agent, source for tickets, start to figure things out. So like I said in one of the previous slides, which is one of the basic ways to validate, you have a prototype. There are lots of, you can use Replit, you can use Bolt, you can use, it was Lovable that I used. I was listening to a podcast with the Lovable founder, and he said, go on Lovable. If I tried, go on Lovable and say, create a website that is like Airbnb. And it will create a website, an Airbnb website with images of hotels, cost X, Y, and Z in less than 3 minutes. You'll be amazed. So there's a lot of tools out there you can use to prototype and validate your idea without you having to go and build before you validate.
Thank you so much, Osa. I hope that answered your question, Emmanuel. Because of time, we can only take one more question. I know, Cynthia, you had your hand raised up. Yes, so please just go ahead and yeah.
Hi, thank you so much. Really, really insightful. So I actually have 3 questions, and I highlighted it in the caption in chat. The first one is, could you recommend like your top 3 podcasts of all time? You highlighted April, apart from April's podcast, and even the podcast you just mentioned that Lovable was on. It'd be nice to know the podcast. So that's one. Okay, let's make that 2 questions then. Then the second one is the part about, you said where you focus on the user, right? If the user love it, then you can go ahead and figure out like the decision makers and all of that. So this actually is from a real case scenario, right? The product was loved by the users, in this case, like the teachers in the school, like it was very useful to them. They enjoyed using it, but they experienced like a roadblock because the decision makers, the principals, the proprietors were shutting the door. We're like, oh, this is going to cost us extra to the parents. We're not going to have to add that to the school fees and all of that. And so because of that, they couldn't find a way through. So how can like a startup figure that situation where the users love it, but the decision makers are saying no?
Okay. Thanks. So the top podcast. So from a product perspective, So everybody knows Lenny's podcast. Yeah, so Lenny's podcast was he interviewed Lovable. So he interviews people in the startup space. Yeah, you can't go wrong with Lenny from a product perspective. Talked about April Dunford. Then another lady too, Teresa Torres, is somebody else I also follow and listen to. I find her very insightful as well. There are a few others as well, but you mentioned 3, so yeah, those are the 3. And then the example that you gave, like I mentioned, is not enough for you to have an idea, especially if you want to translate your idea to revenue. You validate the idea. Once you've done that and there is a need, you now need to figure out how sizable is that market and is there willingness to pay? Is there willingness to pay? Is there ability and willingness to pay? If there's no ability and willingness to pay, you then have to make a decision, you know, because the indices are there. So it's either you are not talking to the right customer, or even if you're talking to the right customer, if there's no willingness to pay, so first of all, like I said, you have to make a decision. Do I want to go ahead, take a loss leadership and figure out maybe when I have, let's hope that if I get users, X number of users within the next 5 years, maybe a business can buy me out and it can make up for the amount of years I've invested. Can you really afford to do that? You know, or so who else can I talk to that can subsidize it? So do I look out for grants? Should I look out for people that can fund, that can subsidize this teachers' payment so that they have to pay, they only pay minimal, or in fact, the entire cost is covered by government or institutions or whatever. You then have to figure it out. Those are questions, those are strategy questions you have to figure out.
Thank you. Thank you. Could you spell the Torres? Teresa Torres.
Teresa, TERESA TORRES. And then there's also Product Therapy by Christian Idiodi and Silicon Valley Product Group. So you can check on Product Therapy as well.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Usa. You did a wonderful job. You know, you really delivered, and this was a very insightful session. And we've come to the end of the session, and we just have one announcement for you. So like Napa mentioned, if you want to go deeper and if you want to get more insights and more value, the Revenue Accelerator is for you. It's a 4 weeks masterclass where we will take you through the flow from product to revenue to sales, to how to build a high performing and scalable team. And it is very, very useful. The link will be dropped in the chat, and then you could download the brochure to find out more about the program. And then of course, if you've enjoyed this, don't forget to follow us on socials, B4B Partners on LinkedIn and Instagram. It was a pleasure having you all here. Thank you again.
Thanks everyone. Have a good weekend.
Thank you yourself. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.